It's time for our daily dose of cope. Me and Persephone are going to sit here and read some of these Dear Don letters because MAGA voters keep tagging Donald Trump saying, "But sir, my face is being eaten. What is going on?" So let's check out a few of these stories, right, Persephone? All right. Let's start out with Latino MAGA. So we have a person named Celtic Aztec says, "Latinos for Trump. Very bright, very bold." He says this was him when he voted for Trump in 2016. This is him voting for Trump now. He is all about it, all in, just warrior, like rah. And then he says, "Michigan is Trump country, hashtag MAGA." He answers the question, what is a sign of very low intelligence, saying, "Following someone blindly like sheep." That is very rich, coming from MAGA. Okay, now we have the Dear Don letter. He says, "Please save Head Start. I voted for you 3 times, real Donald Trump. Sir, knowing my wife may lose her job, she doesn't believe in the DEI garbage. There are many children she teaches that would fall through the cracks without her in the program. She is a quality teacher, unlike those other people that give a damn about diversity." All right, he continues with, "She teaches preschool, and every child she has from abused homes, autistic children, and many foster children are ready to move on to kindergarten. Actually, they are more prepared than some other children. Hashtag save Head Start. Dear Don, sir, may you please find it in your heart to save my wife's job." Now here we have Stephen Borelli. He's commenting on Greg. Greg says, "Here's Trump 3 months ago on the famous Joe Rogan episode talking about how California refuses to build water reservoirs and manage their forests to prevent wildfires." So Stephen says, "Trump emphasizes practical, value-driven approaches aimed at delivering tangible benefits to the country's citizens." He does. In contrast, other politicians often focus on theoretical ideals or moral principles that may lack direct, measurable outcomes for the public. That is what Stephen is saying of Trump. He emphasized practical, value-driven approaches. Okay. So what happened to Vivek? All right, so Stephen is sharing a Vivek Ramaswamy tweet, and he said, "Victory over victimhood, a new dawn on Monday." And then Stephen said, "Victimhood is a disease, especially in the workplace." And then he was saying how excited he was for the Department of Government Efficiency executive order. He said, "Excited for this, no more wasted spending." And so here's the Dear Don letter. He says, "Dear Don, I'm the founder of a clothing brand called Cuts. We are a bootstrapped business that has been around for 8 years and are a true example of living the American dream." So this is the real America right here. "We've built this business to millions of dollars in revenue." And then there is a longer Dear Don letter. So I'm going to show you that in just a minute. Here he is tagging Jesse Waters and asking Jesse Waters, the Fox News anchor, to join a live chat. So here's the whole Dear Don letter. So he said, "We built this business to millions of dollars in revenue over the last 8 years, had a tremendous amount of success, provided jobs to hundreds of people, and I believe I'm an example of the prosperity possible in America. I voted for you in 2016, 2020, and 2024 because I believed in your vision for the country and still do. However, the recent tariff changes are happening too quickly. Removing 321 de minimis at the same time as increasing tariffs on China from 25% to 145% will be the death of thousands of e-commerce companies just like Cuts Clothing. These are businesses that bootstrapped their way to success, created American jobs, and are now enjoying the fruits of their hard work in this country. I understand and support the goal of putting America first. We are fully aligned with that mission, but the way these changes have been handled creates tremendous uncertainty for brands like ours. By placing tariffs on Vietnam and other countries and then changing them so quickly, we are left unsure of what to do. More importantly, we need time to adjust to new legislation." Okay, so y'all see, this is another MAGA person in tariffs. He said he was going to do tariffs. Y'all, there's more to this story. My goal in writing you is to not oppose you, but to stand with your mission of making America great again. We want to protect American jobs and bring manufacturing back. Cuts is ready to help change that, but it cannot happen overnight. Okay, so y'all can read the rest of this. I'll skip to the bottom. I humbly ask that you take this seriously. Every day this continues, more businesses will fail. Solving one issue but hurting the very people who voted for you is not the best outcome. Eat the other people's faces, not mine. Mr. President, we believe in you, and we know that there are things you see that we cannot. I hope you take this into consideration so together we can make America great again. So let's do this together. Don't let us fail, make the other people fail. Now, here we have a Christian MAGA supporter whose daughter is being impacted by these school cuts. So this is an NPR article that says, families say school civil rights investigations have stalled after federal cuts. So this is Amy Cup, and she's hugging her daughter G for a portrait in her home in northern Indiana. G is 12 and has multiple disabilities. Cup has filed a federal complaint over G's treatment in school, but things have stalled because of Trump's cuts to the Department of Education. All right, let's get into the article. It says there are a lot of things 12-year-old G likes about school. She likes gym class. She likes to help other students. She likes to craft with her teacher. But when you ask her what she doesn't like, G doesn't hesitate. The Blue Room, she says, sitting in her home outside Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's a padded room G's family says the school staff sometimes locks her in. It feels like close spaces, and it's like scary in there. Her mother, Amy Cup, says G has disabilities, and because of them, she sometimes has tantrums at school, lying on the floor, refusing to follow instructions, and trying to leave the room. Sometimes when this happens, school staff seclude her. Cup keeps track of every time educators put G in a room alone. Based on reports and emails from the school, so far this school year, she's counted more than a dozen incidents, according to a lawsuit Cup recently joined. As soon as they go to lock doors, she freaks out, Cup says. It's beyond sickening. Cup has fetal alcohol syndrome, autism, ADHD, and a mild intellectual disability. Cup and her husband adopted G as a toddler, and Cup asked that NPR use only G's first initial because this story describes the symptoms of G's disability and her school's response. Cup says that after weeks of trying to get G's school to change the way it handled her daughter's behavior, she filed a complaint with the United States Education Department's Office for Civil Rights, or OCR, which investigates discrimination in school. That office recently lost more than 40% of its staff after the Trump administration launched a massive downsizing of the department. Now Cup and other parents say their civil rights complaints aren't being investigated. Last week, Cup joined a lawsuit that aims to force the federal government to act on complaints like hers. The lawsuit claims the layoffs have undermined OCR's ability to fulfill its statutory and regulatory mandate to enforce civil rights laws in schools. I just can't fathom that anybody would cut something so vital, says Cup, a devout Christian. She says she voted for President Trump and thought he shared her beliefs. But I can't understand why they're doing what they're doing, because that is not what God would intend. She thought that Trump shared her views. The White House referred NPR's request for comment to the Education Department. In a statement, the department said the Office for Civil Rights is working vigorously to protect all Americans, and especially our most vulnerable, from unlawful discrimination. It said OCR has been actively processing disability discrimination complaints for weeks and pointed to a recently opened investigation into D.C. public schools. The department's committed staff will continue to prioritize the educational needs of those with disabilities. The thing is, by cutting staff, they know what they're doing. They know that they're not going to be able to get to all of these complaints. This is the same thing that they're doing to Social Security and Medicaid. They're just going to cut down staff to where there's nothing that they could really do, and it's going to take years to get complaints through. Now, this one's kind of wild. Azalea Banks, who I know more about her social media antics than I do her music, said, "Okay, I think it's time everyone who voted for Trump admit that we made an effing mess." She said this. She says, this is an absolute disaster. She said this at 8:39 a.m. today. And she says, Trump supporters right now. I guess she's talking about the wig. I don't know. She deleted the post though, but Anthony said they voted for chaos and that's what they got, and admitting it now is pointless and, to be honest, embarrassing. This country is in for a wild effing ride for the next 4 years, with the first 3 months being nothing short of a dumpster fire. Let it all burn. And this is where we are, y'all.
Tesla is not the enemy. Cybertrucks are chariots of God. Sure, you look like a douchebag when you drive them, but Jesus wants us in a Cybertruck. Jesus loves Tesla. Jesus loves Twitter. Jesus loves big strong men, but no, he isn't gay. Satan is a drag queen with big fake titties, transing children. Tesla cars are Jesus's cars. Nobody's gay in a Tesla. White people are good.